I'm just going to start by asking, I mean, when you're dealing with a Coen Brothers script here, do you find that just even subconsciously you kind of adopt some of their sensibilities as directors and then sort of attach it to your own style when making this because it's coming from their mouths?
Maybe, listen, if you see like Confessions of a Dangerous Mind or, other films I've done, you'll see some elements of that in there as well. So it'd be stupid if I didn't learn something from them along the way. But their words, their work is always elevated in terms of heightened reality, and you can't then shoot it subtly, so you have to sort of shoot the way they write.
And of course, I mean, there was one point where you sounded like you were going to be attached to this as an actor. When did the decision change for you not to do that, and which role were you going to play?
Well, it was supposed to be Oscar Isaac's role, but then I got Oscar Isaac. And you go, well, that's Oscar Isaac. I'll take him over me any day, So it was much more fun just to have him in the role.
And also, I mean, of course, this film is very pertinent now, and it's been a script that's been around for a couple of decades. So what made you think, right, this is the time to tell this story?
Well, I thought it was an interesting time to talk about building fences and scapegoating minorities and all those kind of things. But I also like the idea of I just like the idea of really unbelievably flawed characters making unbelievably stupid decisions along the way. I thought it was fun.
It's so overtly cinematic. I guess in some ways that's the best way to get good messages across.
Well, I don't feel like you necessarily should make movies that are messages. You try to make movies that are entertaining, and if somebody pulls something out of it, then good. If they want to talk about it, I've done shows that were when we did ER, people would sit around the water cooler the next day and talk about issues and things, but the show was immensely entertaining, and that's sort of the job. That's your job, I think. Or do a documentary.
How would you define your directing style?
Mostly drunk. I don't know if there's a style. I sort of like to. I come in very prepared. I set everything up, and then I let them play, and they're good enough actors that I trust what they do. So.
I thought it was interesting because obviously this was a Coen Brothers script that you were aware of, and you decided to kind of now bring it back to life. Mm-hmm. But it is the Coen Brothers, which you obviously work with. So how do you do that, and how do you kind of give it your own spin?
Well, I mean, your own spin has to be your own take on the material, but there's nothing subtle about the Coen Brothers. So you can't do things, half-assed. It has to be all out.
Right.
That's the fun.
Okay, so let's talk about the theme of this movie, right? There's a lot of people who.
Okay. Sorry.
You're good?
I punched her. You can't see it. I punched her right in the face.
No. So this movie, a lot of characters people have facades and appearances and building fences and what do you think it is about us as human beings that we always have to kind of have this facade and this appearance?
I don't know about a facade as much as we always look back at particularly the Eisenhower 50s in the United States and we think, oh, that was like when everything was really simple and clean and easy and good. And the reality was, if you were a straight white man, it was really good. But for a lot of other people, it wasn't. And so I think it's always good to peel back that veneer and take a look and remind ourselves of what those situations really were and remind ourselves that we have come a long way, but we still got a long way to go.
Last question, spoke to Grant. You guys, I know, co-writing with him and your company.
Yeah.
So how are you guys different writers bringing something unique together when you write?
Well, we've known Grant loaned me $100 to get headshots in 1982.
No, really?
Which I still use, those headshots. I like them. So we've been really close friends, so we sort of finish each other's sentences at this point, so it's really easy. We work really well together.
And Smokehouse, the name of your production company?
It's the bar across the street from Warner Brothers.
That's what you mentioned. Your little hangout place.
Well, it's where all the actors used to go for lunch, so we thought it was a good spot.
Listen, good to see you again.
You too. Thank
Congratulations,
you.
George.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
George, thank you so much for coming back. We're so happy.
I said I'd come back. I said I'd come back.
No one ever gives their promise but you.
No, see?
And so can you tell us a bit more about, when you read the script, what was the main thing that really, really stood out to you and made you really...
Well, I just loved these characters. I loved how they make every wrong decision. Every fork in the road, they go the wrong way. I love flawed characters who just have no clue how to fix things. And Matt and Julianne were the perfect people to do that. And I really like the idea of having a story where everyone's looking in the wrong direction. It's literally you've got your back to the action the whole time and blaming the wrong people. And I think those are always interesting ways of telling stories.
What was the thing, with everything happening in the backdrop, politically, how did it affect the tone and what you wanted to tell?
The tone changed a little bit as the presidency changed, but not that much. The reality was we were talking about building fences and scapegoating Mexicans and Muslims, because that's what the conversation was about then. hoping that things like Charlottesville might be behind us, always hoping that those might be behind us. When they're not, it's unfortunate because it brings all the conversations to the front again. And those are conversations that I suppose we're eventually going to have to really get through. We're going to have to exercise ourselves with these problems. Yeah.
And stylistically, what would you say you are like stylistically as a director?
I try to change with the kind of film. This is a heightened reality of Coen Brothers, so it has to be, the style has to be, the camera has to be a character, and it has to be a little more stylized. So we wanted to shoot, by the end, we wanted it to turn into film noir. You wanted to start out with sort of a pillow talk kind of movie, and move it around. Thank you.
Hi,
Hello.
Laura. It's nice to meet you.
George, how are you?
Good. First question, do you think there's a lot of political messages in this movie? Do you think that movies can change minds?
No, I don't think movies, if you think about movies, it takes 2 years to make a movie. So by the time the movie comes out, you're playing catch up, right? The story's already happened. All the President's Men came out in 76, 74 was Watergate. You can't really change people's minds. What you can do is you can put a pin in a time and moment so that we can look at that time and moment and see where we stood and what we thought and where people were. I think that's a good thing, and I think that's if things are art, if films are art, then I think that's probably a good use of it.
Can you describe Donald Trump in 5 words?
I can't.
It's too many words.
It's 4 too many words. I think just ultimately in over his head, in a devastating way, unqualified.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And then we're asking people what their favorite movie is of all time.
All time?
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, I think Network is. Network is one of my favorite films of all time. I think Paddy Chayefsky was a genius. I think what he wrote about in 1976 at the time was just a comedy, and everything he wrote about came true. I like that movie. I think that might be my favorite. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey,